this episode, we're going to continue with the levels of responsiveness, concentrating on the B levels. To our surprise, we met a man at the Durban waterfront who makes music by playing a PVC pipe and a shaker made of a toilet bowl filled with coins.
Sawubona.
Yebo.
How are you?
Ngiyaphila.
Good. I am so impressed with what you do. You've got a stick and you've got a ball and you're making a living. You know, some people are non-initiators. They don't initiate. They don't come up with ideas. And other people are initiators like you that are full of ideas. And they can actually make a living just out of their ideas.
Yeah.
That is the difference between a chicken-minded person and an eagle-minded person. There are 3 B levels. B1, this is the independent state of being. Independence, self-sufficient, the ability to plan and prioritize, being solution-orientated, the ability to analyze and synthesize, which means that the whole brain is being used, balancing people and profit, making the place better, improving, thinking out of the box. This is the consciously competent state where a person is independent, consciously competent, without structure. Now out of the box, without structure. B2, the entrepreneurial state. This is where a person is very high volitionized and have a very high drive with a very high entrepreneurial vision. B2 is the competitive responsiveness state. It's the state where a person is conscious, competent, independent, but now competitive and novel and innovative. The person thrives on challenges. It competes only with itself. It is very entrepreneurial and it's disciplined. And on this state, the person says, bring it on. Nothing is going to faze me.
A human being that operates on a B3 level of OI consciousness is highly responsive, highly adaptive, and highly contributive. Gino Bartali, an Italian champion cyclist, was such a person during World War II. You can imagine what a challenging time that must have been. A person operating on a B3 level is completely unconsciously competent. This means that every single part of his brain is connected with every other single part of the brain through a 40 Hertz wave connection. And therefore, this person is completely oblivious about time, space, hunger, whatever the circumstances might be. Let's see how Gino Bartali responded to a challenge during that time, and try and identify those instances where he was completely oblivious about the dangers that's all around him.
Gino Bartali was one of the world's top cyclists. This Italian became a champion during the 1936 Giro d'Italia. The next year he came back to win it again. In 1938 he won the Tour de France and his name became known around the world. But his career was derailed when World War II broke out. The Nazis invaded northern Italy and began targeting Jews living in Italy. Bartali then became part of a secret effort to save the lives of those being persecuted. The record-breaking cyclist became a war hero by smuggling photos and fake documents in the handlebar and frame of his bicycle. His effort saved the lives of 800 Jews.
B3 is the highest volitional state. It is where a person is having a vision, but a purposeful vision, and where the person is driven by the vision and having unstoppable volition.
The Battle of Okinawa. A battle in which both sides suffered enormous losses. In late April 1945, Das and his battalion were tasked with climbing a 120-meter jagged cliff named Hacksaw Ridge. Waiting for them were thousands of heavily armed Japanese soldiers, entrenched in hidden caves and holes. About a week into the fight, Das was the only medic available to advance with the rest of the men. Das joined the men just as the Japanese concentrated massive artillery and other heavy fire on them. The remaining Americans were driven back down the escarpment, except for Das. He was the only one to remain with the wounded. Over the span of several hours, Das treated the injured and one by one dragged them to the edge of the cliff and lowered them to safety in a rope sling. Each successful delivery, he reportedly said, "Dear God, let me just get one more man." By nightfall, he had rescued 75 soldiers.
I saw Doss repeatedly go out among heavy enemy fire and bring the wounded back to safety. And on May the 2nd, Doss, when I was wounded in the face, you gave me a morphine shot and bandaged my head and led me back to that cargo net.
5 days later, I was wounded very seriously in the left lung and left knee. And Doss was the only medic left at that time. He came down and gave me courage and dressed my wound, gave first aid to the other 3 men that were hit with me. He sent us back and he remained there under fire. Doss, I owe you my life.
Days later, as the Americans continued their slow advance, Das was seriously wounded by a grenade. Instead of calling on another medic for help, he treated himself and waited 5 hours to be rescued. As he was being carried back to an aid station, his unit was attacked again. Das insisted that another badly injured soldier take his spot on the stretcher. As he continued his trek on foot, Das was hit by a sniper, shattering his arm. He eventually made it to the aid station for treatment. During his military career, Das also received the Purple Heart and a Bronze Star, all without harming another human being.
B3 is the optimum human state. It is where a human is unconscious of his competency. It's when the human is wise, resourceful, lots of experience, and now transcends into a state where truth and integrity is important. It is where a person has got a vision, but not a vision just for entrepreneurialism, but a vision for a purposeful doing. B3 is the state where a human is a contributor to the society. It's the change-making state. It is the social entrepreneurial state. A person has got a very high vision and a very unstoppable drive, and nobody can break that powerful volitional energy in that human. So the human has got humility. Ego is not important anymore. Volition is now important. Very wise. And then the most important part is that altruistic, bigger cause motive that deals with only the truth and nothing but the truth, no matter what the cost. So the person has got creative compassion, humility. The ego is not there anymore. And there's a lot of authority in what this person says and does because it comes from a very deep internal resourcefulness state.
In this episode, it became clear how important it is for every individual to develop higher OI levels. In the next episode, we'll look at a practical example of OI development.